Hey guys, this is GamerCow. Welcome to a practice commentary run for my MarisaLand Legacy speedrun submission to the Fangame Marathon 2019. This is going to be taking place on Saturday evening time for me. Hopefully it won't get too far delayed by scheduling, but you know how it always goes. There'll be a link to the actual schedule in the video description down below. And yeah, it's mostly I Want to Be the Guy games, and then it's been opened up in the last couple of years to allow for other fan games as well. So you've got some Mario ROM hacks in there, I think AM2R is in there, you've got the Toho fan game stuff like Lunar Nights, and I think the other one was, which one was it, the Tenchi Tempest of Celestial or something, I don't remember exactly what it's called. It's the one, yeah, it's like the 2D Tenchi action game thing. It's pretty good. I remember playing it, I just don't remember exactly what it was called because it had this really stupidly long name. But anyway, not the point. We are playing MarisaLand Legacy. It's going to be the Warpless category because any percent is stupid and very, very, very volatile. And Warpless is still pretty volatile, but at least it shows all of the game off. So let's go in 3, 2, 1, begin. So this is the third game of the series. There has been Super MarisaLand and then New Super MarisaLand, and now we're going back to basics really. This game is structured and plays pretty similarly to SMP1 in the sense that you have your side-scrolling left to right. You can't actually scroll the screen backwards, so if you miss something, you have permanently missed it. But there's a retry button. So you're able to actually just restart the stage if you want, and that's always pretty good. In terms of overall mechanics, there is a P-speed sort of meter in this one, kind of like you would see in SMP3, but it behaves a little bit differently. I'll go into how as we go along, so it can show examples of where it gets used, but the main thing is that you actually get to retain the charge on it, if you will, as you go forwards on platforms. So if you end up building up half the meter, then jumping, unlike in SMP3, where you would just lose that, you actually get to keep it the whole way through. And there's a lot of situations in the game where you are trying to basically just work out how to best utilize that, how to actually get P-speed going, when to bounce, when not to bounce. The other main thing for this is that if you are holding the jump button in the air, you actually do fall slower than when you aren't. So there's a couple of unique situations that comes into play as well. Power-up wise, it's basically, it's the same as Super MarisaLand, which was effectively the same as SMP1. You have, well, okay, it's not quite the same. You've got two different like super mushroom states, and then there's a double mushroom that gives you basically twice as much height as you would think. Gives you some varying powers depending on what state you're at before you picked it up. So the main one we're going to see is the 6 heads tall Marisa, which is your fire flower equivalent. That is used in 3 bosses, ideally. It's a bit of RNG as to whether or not you get to do it for 3 bosses, but yeah. These bosses aren't exactly that difficult. I mean, they're a lot tougher on hard mode because the thing moves about 3 times faster towards you. Key to note though, they do instantly kill you if you actually touch them, even if you're in a powered up state, so yeah. Speaking of powered up states, we're going to start going through a little bit of it now. So 3 heads tall, you take 1 extra hit, and those cookie blocks act like turn blocks as opposed to the regular bricks that you would see in, you know, Super Mario Bros. So they kind of function very similarly to SMW, like Super Mario World blocks at that point. For 4 heads tall, if you get a second small mushroom, or if you go from small Marisa to 2 heads tall, small Marisa with a double mushroom, you will end up being able to break those blocks instead of making them turn blocks. And then the 6 heads tall here, you see the fireball. You can't shoot it whilst you're ducking, so it's kind of impossible to hit grounded enemies, which is pretty annoying. And you do have the chance to quick kill bosses with this, which is the main reason this gets used. If you get to 8 heads tall, which we might see if I'm lucky in World 5, then you can go Mega Marisa for a small amount of time and just barrel through everything, which is pretty good. That stage is purely RNG as to whether or not you get to keep the power-up. You do want to keep the power-up, but it's possible to get the entire thing back in this stage. It just takes more time. So if you go into this stage at 6 heads tall, you're able to bypass the hidden mushroom that's there. And if you can keep your speed going, you can actually just run straight through this stage. This game sometimes has issues with jumping from the edge of platforms. So single tile jumps can be pretty scary in this, and it's definitely something worth noting if you do pick this up. There's a couple of different speed tiers you have as well. You've got your regular walking speed that we'll obviously never see because we're in a speed run. You've got the initial run before you get P-speed, and then of course you've got your P-speed running as well. Your momentum is different for every type, so it's, again, very similar to the way Super Mario World does stuff that way, or more like SMB1 in terms of having inertia. You've got to be a little bit mindful about that, because it can be very easy just to not make jumps because you haven't moved at all beforehand. Just take this guy out, deliberately taking the hit here because the height of Marisa can be a really awkward thing to go in fast in stages. So fire killing a boss saves about 10 to 13 seconds depending on the boss, and so your challenge is to make sure that you don't lose that much time, more than that time doing the stages like in between. And this one is particularly difficult to do well with 6 heads tall Marisa, because if you're twice as tall, a lot of these jumps will clip you, or you won't be able to actually make the height and stuff you want. So there's a balancing act, and it's always an interesting one as well, because we're going to actually get the power back in the next stage. So you would think, oh, that takes a lot of time. You wouldn't want to do that, but it actually makes a lot more sense because of how bad the last stage is. Like, it's not uncommon to lose 7-8 seconds on that last stage, where it only takes a couple of seconds to pick the power back up here. So if we shoot straight shots, we can actually take those out and try and maintain momentum. That's a bit you've got to be especially careful of. If you just try and jump without moving forwards first on the ground, then you will end up dying. I held the jump button down there so I could run off the edge as opposed to jumping off. Just that little bit of extra time to build up some more P-speed. Now, one of the toughest stages of the game to do fast. This one has cloud blocks, which are kind of like no blocks, but infinitely worse, because if you don't immediately jump off them, you are going to lose a lot of momentum here. The exception is jumping off the end of a chain, but like that just killed my momentum entirely. That was a fantastic stage, to be honest. You can maintain P-speed all the way through to the end, but it's incredibly difficult. So even just missing that last one is not a bad thing at all. So we get to Castle of World 3. This one introduces the Thwomp Fuzzies here. You can actually jump off of those. That's needed for a later part of the stage, just coming up here. But if you can actually dot jump there, that's something I ended up missing, but if you can dot jump there, you can actually maintain P-speed going all the way through here. So you can dot jump underneath the Thwomp Fuzzies with P-speed and just pick it up again as you go. So it's pretty strong, but also very difficult to do, so not too surprised that I failed it there. I think it takes 15 fireballs, if I count correctly, to take out one of the bosses here. But we're only going to be able to see that in one more world, so it's not that big of a deal, to be honest. So now we got World 4. World 4 is the bamboo world. It introduces the pipes here. The pipes aren't used very often at all, actually. I think it's only in a couple of levels here. They're pretty annoying to go in, especially the vertical ones. They seem to have a really small hitbox, but that's whatever. I'm going to deliberately tighten the hit here so I can maintain my P-speed and be able to run through the end of that a bit faster. I think the fastest time I've done with this one is with 2 or 3 heads tall, and you just don't take a hit at the end there, but it's way too awkward not to tank it. I think Gotonis is trying to look at a way to do this without using that, but then this level becomes annoying because you get stuck in between the ceiling blocks, so it's pretty frustrating. So I mentioned before about preserving P-Speed. Here's a really good example. I'm going to jump there so I don't get P-Speed too quickly. That lets the platform drop down more so that I can keep my momentum going. Essentially, if I didn't if I just got P-Speed as soon as I could there, I'd run face first into the wall because the platform wouldn't have lowered enough in order for me to actually run off it. So here is the only true auto-scroller of the game. There's not that there aren't any auto-scrolling segments, it's just that this is the only one where you have the entire stage as an auto-scroller. We had 2-4, there is, I mean, 5-2 is kind of an auto-scroller, 5-3 has an auto-scrolling section, but other than that, it's about it. This game is mostly action, which is really good. There are no actual, like, scroll-locked stages in this game, so if you can move quickly through it, most of the time you're going to be able to, like, if you have the opportunity. So it's pretty good. Alright, on to 4-3, 4-4 even, onto the fort already. This stage has a lot of relatively tight jumps. You can run under the bunny here, but make sure you jump slightly early for that. You can land on top of the other platform there, but if you're quick enough for reactions, it doesn't matter. A quick dot jump there. Actually maintain the P-Speed. That's something you can also do if you are quick enough. You can keep your P-Speed going. There's a lot of places where you just pull back very slightly so that you can correct a jump, or make sure that you don't fall off the edge of the platform or something. And so long as you end up holding forwards when you land, you'll be able to keep P-Speed going. So it's pretty good. Also, kind of didn't really mention these bamboo bunnies, but they exist. They're nothing too special. So we actually do have 4 heads tall Marisa going into World 5 here, which is pretty good. So that means I can show off the basically optimal strats here, because you get 8 heads tall here. This gives you the Mega Marisa style, which you just barrel through all the enemies. You get extra points and lives for it. Not really too worried about the lives, but this is great if you're playing casually, which is really good. Here, 4 heads tall Marisa is a little bit larger than I'm used to for this stage. Yeah, I'm gonna accidentally take the hit. That's not really that good. I just want to wait for the firebar there, or the fireball even. These Podobos are RNG once they've appeared once in the stage. Like, they appear when you just off screen from them, and then they will be RNG as to when they pop up again. Very, very annoying in the stages to come. So ideally I want to have a hit to tank in this stage, but there is a way of mitigating most of the time loss that is going to incur. Also, there's an extra life there if you're interested. So ideally you would want to take a hit at this point coming up here, but you can go ahead and get a run going and jump over that to save most of the time. You get the hit here because you want to tank this so that you can just get to the end faster. And yeah, 317 in-game time. Didn't really mention one in-game time, one in-game unit is roughly 0.4 of a real-time second, and 317 is the fastest that you can get there. So it's nice that we didn't really lose too much time to that. This stage really exemplifies some of the RNG nature of the Podobos here, because that part can go very differently depending on where they show up. This bit's pretty annoying. Didn't manage to get the run under this time, so we're gonna have to just wait for that. And now here, I always jump forwards because otherwise these Podobos will show up at the worst possible time, and it's really annoying. Like, that looked really dumb to do, but if I didn't do that, and the Podobo would have come up much later and killed me. It happens so often. It's incredibly obnoxious, to be honest. So now we have 5-4. This is one of the most difficult stages of the game to do in the speedrun sense. We're going to try and make a really tight cycle to skip under some of the fire bars at the end of this here. So you want to get down to the bottom as quick as possible to get your P-speed going, and then here, even just that tiny movement backwards almost cost me the cycle there. You want to slide down the hill, slide down the staircase a little bit, because otherwise you'll go too fast and you'll run into the fire bars there. And then this last part really sucks. I'm just going to have to wait. The RNG here is incredibly powerful at killing you. So that was not fast, but sometimes you get away with just running straight down from the staircase there. But most of the time that will kill you. And it's really frustrating. It's so annoying to lose a run to RNG there. So I'm taking it a little bit safe because we are in a no reset environment here after all. So, bit of a slow stage, but that's fine. No deaths, and you want to leave the stage at 3 heads tall. And the reason for that is because the next stage has double mushrooms but no single mushroom. So the idea of this one is it's supposed to be a Mega Marisa stage, but we're going to go through with fire because fire is faster for the boss. And this is the other one that ideally we would take a fire kill on. There's a little slight glitch there, you build up the momentum. Oh, by the way, this is Ice World, there's ice physics as well, as you would expect. So yeah, we build up a momentum by sliding down the hill. So it's a nice little backup if I don't get to keep the P-speed there. Other than that, pretty solid stage. There's a little visual glitch here if you hit the balloon whilst you're shooting a fireball. It just lets you hold your hand out. That's the thing. It's really kind of dumb, but that is what it is. So long as I leave this stage 3 heads tall, I can get the power up back for the next stage. But ideally, I don't want to take a hit in this one. So just tricky little maintain the P-speed there. That's a lot tougher than it looks. It's taken me quite a while to actually be able to build that up. Nice little duck slide under that because I couldn't shoot it somehow. And yeah, maintain the power up. Very good stage. 336 is one of the best I've ever done in that, I think. It's really nice. Yeah, not quite a gold split, but very close. So, I mentioned the fairies, the fish fairies as we call them, fish percent as I call it in my own chat. We mentioned their RNG before. This stage exemplifies it hugely. Like, there's ice physics, there's the RNG here, there's no recourse for getting this power up back. The castle does not have a double mushroom, so I got pretty lucky this time being able to keep that, and keep it very quickly too. I think 337 is again one of the fastest I've done this in. Yeah, almost a gold split there. There's still some more time to save in that stage, but that was really good. So, hopefully, can manage this one just fine. Here, as 6 heads tall, you actually have to duck jump, otherwise you will not make it under the gap there. So, build up the run speed, shoot these 2 down here, and we should be home free at this point. We've got just this little swamp staircase to build here. This is where it really shows that you can bounce off them. It's pretty good. And now we get to kill the boss with the fire instead of waiting for the fuzzy shells. So no problem there, just holding back a little bit so that I don't run into him. The amount of times I've run into that boss is way too high. So good stuff. Okay, World 7, 7-1, also one of the toughest stages to do in the game. This section is actually surprisingly annoying. We're not going to have 6 heads tall for the rest of the game here. We're going to be tanking the hit in a quick moment here. Take it that hit because that is the next bit of this stage basically is annoying to do 6 heads tall because you would not fit through that gap. Just a little pullback so I don't run off the edge there. You've got to be careful with the timing because otherwise you will end up running, you'll end up losing P-speed if you pull back too quickly, which makes some of the other jumps pretty difficult to do. So there's that. 7-2 is a tricksy little stage here. This is where the final damage boost of the run comes in. So hold the jump button down there so that you don't fall between the blocks. There's a power up that you would get there as a backup, but ideally you would come in with one so that you can not have to wait for these things to fall down. final bit, you just jump a little bit and then land on the ferry. You don't have to land on the ferry, but it's usually the safest way of doing it. I think if you just hold the jump button and jump as high as you can... Oh, nice gold split. If you just jump as high as you can, then you'll end up hitting the Flop Fuzzy at the top. It's now 7-3, what I think is actually the hardest stage of the game to run, because there's a lot of single tile jumps. I've already failed it. You're supposed to have P-speed the entire way through this. It's very, very challenging to do. So, it's disappointing, but not altogether surprising that I've failed like that. And I didn't want to take the death, though. I thought I could get the P-speed up quick enough. I guess we'll get another shot at it, but that's a real shame, because this run was going incredibly well. Oh well. And I still failed it anyway. Yeah, so single tile jumps are incredibly scary in this game. As I've mentioned, I've had a very hard time with the edge of platforms in this one. So it's very, very frightening to even attempt to do most of them. And, well, that kind of shows you why. Oh well. That sucks to lose the time to that, but it's all good. My PB is actually deathless, that's why it's so difficult to keep up with this stuff here. It's now 7-4. It is actually possible to get 6 heads tall Marisa in this stage, but it takes a really long time, and the ending part of this stage is just super awkward when you're that tall. So it's not worth it, it actually does slow you down, so I'm not going to bother getting it. This last jump, just hold the jump button basically as long as you can there. Now, the bullet bill launchers are actually RNG as well, it's just that we usually don't see them fire more than once because of the speed that we go through. But this is the good example of the RNG nature of them. It's actually been pretty kind this time. They can disrupt you from getting the third fuzzy there if you're unlucky, but that time it worked out very well, so good stage. It's not over just yet though, because World 8 is also really, really difficult. There's a lot of fun tricks going on here. So with 8-1, we want to go underneath that guy, just slightly stop holding forwards to make sure that I can jump correctly there. You can't jump from the 2nd to the 4th platform, so you have to wait a little bit. Land, oh, okay. You want to land here so that you can jump over and skip the cycle. But I pulled back slightly too far, so didn't quite get to pull that off. There's a little glitch this guy can do. If you release him too late, you can actually end up getting him caught in the blocks at the top, in the little wooden ceiling. Doesn't really matter too much because he'll come back down and you'll be fine, but it's still a little bit of time loss. You don't really want to incur that. So, it is what it is. And now, probably the 3rd hardest stage to run in the game. Maybe 3-3 is slightly harder, but this one is pretty immense. So, this stage has undergone a lot of changes in recent times, and this is now the fastest way through. There's not a whole lot to explain, it's just like run and bounce off the fairies at the right sort of time. This last bit you want to bounce off the 3rd one, then the top one, land on the top cannon, and down you go. Perfect stage. Super, super good. That one is incredibly volatile. It will go wrong in every which way possible. And now 8-3, very similar to 8-3 and SMB1 actually. You've got these, they actually do have power-ups in them as well, in the same sort of spots. You've got the Hammerbow fairies here. Oops, I held forward. That was a bad mistake to do. So, I wanted to use my run momentum to jump higher there, but I wasn't supposed to keep holding forwards. That was my mistake, and we are going to be punished for it, but that's fine. It is what it is. So if you keep running as much as possible there, you can just build up P-speed to just run under the fairies. It's pretty precise. Again, you can maintain the P-speed by pulling backwards very slightly so I don't run into the cliff, because that makes it much easier to do the final bit if you've got P-speed there. So an unfortunate end there, but that's okay. And then even after all of this, there's a slight bit of RNG at the beginning of this stage, because the fairies here can kill you. That second fairy can kill you without you being able to do anything about it, if it decides, I think, to move backwards at the start before it launches the flower. So, bit of a shame. Stop moving there so that I can rebuild P-Speed faster, because if I just jump between those juggling fairies, then I will end up getting... I won't be able to get P-Speed back very quickly, because I have to stop. That mushroom costs about a second, like 1.2 seconds pretty much to get, and it's just a safety because whether these things fling 3 sunflowers or 1 sunflower is random, as you would expect. And there we go. 2401 with 2 deaths. It's pretty good. I'm hoping the run on Saturday goes that sort of well. Like, even with a couple of small mistakes, that was amazing. You can control Marisa during the credits here and break the blocks if you want. There's actually a little glitch to show off here as well if I go ahead and get myself pushed off screen. It doesn't actually kill you, but it does make an amusing thing at the end of this. So yeah, that is MarisaLand Legacy. Overall, that was an incredible run, to be honest. I'm getting used to I just got the iBuffalo pad today. It finally came in. It was delayed by like a week longer than it should have been, and it was already over a month to come in because customs in Japan was kind of a butt. But that's okay, because it's finally here. It works with like everything that I have that I can use it with. It's super good. Yeah, 2 deaths, 1704 in game time is really, really good. I didn't even mention that each stage has got like 5 rainbow stars that go for like 100% completion. You get a life if you get all 5 on the same stage, but whatever. I guess that's something I might mention in passing, but they don't do anything special. But each stage is designed so that you can get every star without having to bring a power-up in from the previous stages, so it's kind of neat. But yeah, that is MarisaLand Legacy. Hope you guys enjoyed the run. Shame we didn't quite get record off of that, actually, because if I didn't die those couple of times, this would have been a new PB, maybe even Dare to Dream. That would have been a very low 23, which would have been fantastic. But regardless, I am super happy with that run. So yeah, until Saturday, I guess. If you want to check out the schedule, see if there's anything you're interested in, then look in the video description, and you'll see that then. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and until next time, take care. Bye!